of funds are spent by January 31st, and it's not like a hard expiration date because it's only 50% of the funds. But if they don't do that, then they might lose some of the funding, or maybe they don't qualify for an incentive if they were. Maybe they could get a little bit of extra funds or something like that. And I think your council does something like that too, right?
We have. It was really goals for our coaches. And it was pretty amazing by setting those goals, what got accomplished. It was pretty powerful. What I'm wondering about with some of this is if you had them sign an MOU that has a date in it, you want to be really careful then how you're dealing with it, it would seem to me, because you've actually obligated that you've given them a date.
Yeah.
So if you're going to work with other stuff, other dates, then it's really kind of more on a handshake agreement in that case if you're moving it up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is kind of a, how do you incentivize them to get moving? Because it is important to spend this money sooner than later, because it will about kill you if you wait.
Yeah, exactly. We have lived that together. Yeah, no, it's true. So I think if you are trying to do that more formally, do it in the MOU and have targets in the actual MOU document. If you're trying to do that informally, then do a merit-based system as opposed to like taking things away. That's probably how you do that. Cool. Any other questions on that? Okay. So internal coaching. So I did not fill this out because we just added this field. So everybody might recall, or you might have just shied completely away from the old funding stream record, which is okay. We used to have this like whole personnel tab, and you put in personnel by the different roles, like the navigators and the coaches and all this stuff, and it would calculate a proxy internal coaching rate. Well, based on very loud and pervasive feedback, which was really good, we got rid of that. So it's no longer there. And so now, in order to calculate a projected internal coaching rate, just to try and get to a proxy value of what those requisitions are worth and how you should expect to see your budget spend down, we have added this one simple field, which is just the internal coaching dollar budget. You can be creative on what you include in there, but what I would include in there is just salaries and fringe. So, and a proportion of their time. And then you can put all the other types of expenses in other parts of your budget. Now with Race to the Top and the GAE and how the QI and coaching is working, this probably needs to include all of your internal coaching expenses. So this would be where you'd put travel for internal coaches and trainings for internal coaches and stuff like that, because it'll be based on that $100 an hour rate that we're given from a revenue standpoint. And there will be more guidance on that.
So I received my budget, and we had so many sites going through, and there was a certain amount of money that was going for incentive dollars. I would take the rest of those funds and put it in the internal coaching if I have internal coaches only.
Do you only have internal coaches? Yes.
So that would be my dollar amount there, travel, the whole works.
Yeah, as long as you feel comfortable with that number and you feel like it's rooted in reality, yes. Yep, definitely. And it's really like the budget, on the budget side, it's just number of internal coaching hours you're expecting to provide times delivered is your revenue. So like technically, if I just said 380 times 100, you know, I would just say 38,000. It's $100. Now my actual coaches cost a little less than that. So I'm going to pull up a calculator.
Sharon, we got about 8 minutes left.
Thank you. So I'm just going to give an estimated value. So these are not real numbers. But let's say my coach makes $50,000 a year. And let's say I have a fringe rate of 25%. Fringe, what does fringe include? Benefits? Taxes. Great. So let's say I've got 25%. So I'm going to say times 1.25. So to pay a coach for a year, it costs $62,500. Now, at the Denver Council, we use the 1/3 rule that we actually stole from Clayton, who has a lot of coaches, where a coach is expected to be working 1/3 of their time on direct coaching hours. That's not including travel. So it's literally the number that pops out in your total billable hours. And 2/3 of their time with indirect. So if you have somebody who's not actually a full-time coach, maybe they are 0.6 coach and 0.4 grant lead, you want to do 1/3 of 0.6. You don't want to do 1/3 of the whole person, because that's unfair to them and you will work them to death. So if you take that and divide by the number of hours in a year, which is 2,080, and you, oops, I think I did that wrong. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this in front of everyone, but let's see, 50,000 times 1.25. Okay, so I'm going to take that and divide that by 3. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? I know this formula. It's just standing in front of everyone. Okay, so this is the total cost, and I know that for that amount, I can provide.
You want to divide it by 2080 now, and then do it back?
Oh, yeah, because you said number of hours per week. Number of hours they
per
work.
year.
Per year.
Divide it now by 2080.
No, I don't think I want to do that. I think I want to take 2080 divided by 3. It's 693 coaching hours. Is how many coaching hours I can provide. And then I want to say, if I was paying a full-time coach to be doing that for 693 hours, then it would cost X. So I would take my 50,000 times 1.25 divided by 2080 equals that's the hourly rate, and I can multiply that times 380, and I can multiply that by 3, and then I get to 34,254. Sorry about that. That was a little confusing. 34,255. Okay, so I'm going to do that again because that was really confusing. So basically what you want to do is you want to convert their salary and fringe into an hourly rate. Then you want to multiply that by the number of coaching hours that you're planning to deliver. And if you're using the 1/3 rule, you can multiply that by 3. Some councils, they have their coaches do 50% direct coaching, or some other percentage. So as long as it's clearly communicated with your coach, then you can use whatever rate. But so you see how I got to an hourly rate, and I multiplied it by the number of hours, and then I multiplied that by the number of hours it takes to deliver a coaching hour, because then otherwise you're not including that indirect, which includes travel time, going to trainings, holidays, vacation, sick time, all of these things are included in that. So now I can see, just from a salary and fringe standpoint, my internal coach rate is $90. But what's the problem with that? This is based on projected hours. What if I actually only deliver 300 hours? It's going to be way over. So this is the tricky part, right? You are committing that you can do 380 hours for this amount of money. And if you're not doing 380 hours, you are not marrying your financial transactions to your program transactions, and you are not fulfilling your scope of work, right? So this is the part that OEC needs to be able to see, that you are paying a coach, and the coach is doing coaching, right? You're not paying a coach, and the coach is sitting on the sidelines. Now, it's a problem because coaches are salaried in a lot of cases. And you pay the coach regardless of if they're performing coaching hours. So it's something you really have to manage and pay attention to. Any questions on that? So one thing that we do is we kind of try to have a little piece of our coaches and other things, like providing trainings, and so we can budget for them in other parts of grants so that they're not wholly reliant on only delivering coaching hours. But also we have performance expectations of our coaches, and so we say, hey, you should be performing 12 hours per week on average. If you're not performing 12 hours per week on average, we're going to come talk to you because something's going on. And maybe it's a bad week and they make up for it the next week, but you just, you want to keep monitoring that.
Cheryl, not to go into this at this hour, but, so that 380, the way you figured it, totally follow you on that.
Good.
And so that's what mine would maybe look like, so it might be in that area.
Okay.
However, the minimum coaching hours for that school readiness, or the number of programs we can provide services for, is far less than that,
Sure.
380. So I just think there's that miscommunication still between the minimum QI coaching that needs to happen and this process.
No, that's a great point. And this is just Denver. So this is me putting this into the budget when I applied for school readiness, saying I can perform this many hours. So for you, you could put in 200 hours or 50
Yeah, what I'm
hours.
saying is that the budget was put in, so I have my budget by OEC, and it was put in. But we weren't thinking of long, this 380 hours process at that point. I was thinking of how we've always functioned under school readiness, and this is what it takes to employ a coach, a school readiness coach.
Yeah.
Then the minimum requirement from OEC comes in, but that doesn't touch the 380, it's much far less.
So you have a full-time coach on school readiness, but not enough coaching hours to be under $100. So
Something like
assign some of that coach to whatever they're actually working on. What are they working on? Are they working on trainings? Are they working on helping sites do X, Y, Z? Separate that from the actual performance of coaching hours. Is that a good, Michelle? I saw you look funny. Is that good?
I'm zoning out, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Too many numbers. I just said I
Yeah.
couldn't get around it.
So, sorry, Michelle.
Is it that your coaches are actually doing more hours with the programs, or that you just have, it appears you have more money to do coaching than you can possibly do with the number of programs you're working with? Which is,
Yeah, 'cause both could be a problem.
right.
Okay, we'll talk further. So just.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point though, because if you are only trying to deliver 50 coaching hours, but you want to employ that whole person, figure out what that whole person is working on besides coaching hours. Because I'm sure they're working on a ton of other really important stuff.
Trainer approval process.
Yes, yeah.
We have the opposite problem. We have coaches delivering more coaching hours than specifically for Race to the Top.
Yeah.
Race to the Top. a
So
lot.
we did an enhancement now to both internal and external where you're just going to put in the number of hours. And so you can just change that. And you keep your budget the same. So if your budget is $40,000 at $100 an hour, but you can actually deliver 800 coaching hours because your real rate is only $50, you just change the number of coaching hours from 400 to 800, and it's going to do that for you, and it's going to preserve that $40,000 budget. So I think this will be a lot smoother because it's a lot easier to say, I want to deliver this many coaching hours with this dollar budget, and it's going to figure out what your rate is.
And that's okay, to go over the amount.
Yeah, absolutely.
The 5 hours, let's
You
say.
can over-deliver.
As long as you are still able to provide coaching hours to everybody who's in the program.
And you're staying within your budget.
Right.
That's the most
Right.
important.
That's absolutely
Yeah.
bottom line.
Yeah, there's a reason it's called the bottom line.
I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, and I think Race to the Top has been really tricky, and we're gonna figure it out together. I don't know all the ins and outs yet. We're gonna figure it out though. It'll be okay. All right. Any final questions, thoughts? Thanks for sitting through such a long day. Hopefully some of it was fun, some of it was useful. Let us know if you have any other questions.
Thank you. It was useful, thank you.